Hello, hello, beautiful people, mi gente bella. Welcome to another edition of Santana Says, where we talk about everything from Roblox to relationships, everything in between, and the overall journey of life. I am excited as always to bring you another edition of the show, but also we do have a wonderful guest because we are in the second part of our Unwrapping Lessons series. And so, you know what I'm saying? It's the end of the year. By the time you hear this, it might be the beginning of next year already. But either way, we are in the middle of our reflection season. You know what I'm saying? We trying to, like look back a little bit on how things have been and, you know what I mean, take that new energy on, especially during this time. It's a good time to kind of get that foundation going. So that's what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Like breathe a little bit, bit. Exactly. Yeah. We are trying. And so this is technically someone who's known me forever, you know what I mean? For longer than I've known her.
Right.
And so like.
We're too little to remember.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? A little baby in this thing. But also knows my brother and everything. And so like, I just love it that we are like connected and I'm so glad. But also shout her out and shout out to social media because TikTok especially, like I'll put my little reels and stuff. I don't know who be seeing it, y'all. I just be like, whatever, let me put it up.
I followed you on TikTok, on Instagram. So yeah. I love what you're doing. I just feel like it's inspirational for a lot of people to just watch and learn because it's learning.
Yeah,
hearing other people's stories and you're learning from them.
Yes, absolutely, and that's also heartwarming because that's what I hope when I put out things that it can do that.
Yes.
Yay! So I'm telling you, so that validation is like everything. So I love. So thank you so very much for that and for coming. And so with that, could you tell the beautiful people a little bit about you? Who are you? You know what I mean? A little bit about what brought you here today.
Okay. Well, I'm Maricely. I grew up on the East Side.
Yes.
That's home. That's all I knew.
Right.
I have 4 adult children, 31, 28, 27, and 19. And I am a grandmother of 2.
And looks incredible, y'all. I just want to be clear. Some people are going to see you. Some people are going to hear you. But man, I'm just letting you know, it looks amazing. Yes.
Yes. And I'm married. I'm married right now to a wonderful man. We've been together 14 years.
Wonderful.
It's wonderful now.
Yeah, okay.
But to get there, I went through some things, as we all do in life.
Exactly.
And it was, times in my life that I was really lost and a lot of things happening. Didn't think I'd be where I am today.
Right.
But watching your show and watching different people with their stories, it's always just something that catches my attention. And what caught my attention was once you were talking about, it was regarding surviving domestic violence, but also how that trauma, how it affects children.
Right.
And that one hit close to home for me. Because, like I said, I have 4 children. My 3 oldest children come from a broken home. Right. That there was some violence there, and a lot of trauma. Luckily, for my girls, not so much for my son. When I left that situation, they were young enough that they don't recall a lot of what happened. My son, on the other hand, recalls a lot of it, too much sometimes, and has it affected him? Of course.
Right.
The one thing about me is that me and my kids talk about everything.
Right.
As Hispanics, we come from families who there's a lot of secrets.
Oh, all the time.
They believe that in not telling us things or keeping things from us was protecting us.
Right.
And I kind of broke that with my kids because I was like, we're not doing this.
Not here.
We're not doing this because, I get why they did it. And it's kind of sad because they still do it today. A lot of Hispanic households, it's a lot of, we can't have anyone talking about us and our reputation and this, and we're a family of, But when you don't speak of certain things, you're going to allow something to come in.
Yeah. Yep.
And for me, with my children, I believed in talking about things. And like I said, I came from a very loving home. Mm-hmm. My mom and father were very loving. I didn't see abuse.
Okay.
So to end up in a situation like that, everyone around me was like, how did that happen?
Right.
But for one, I was young. I was very young. I was 15 when I met him. And when you're that young, easily manipulated.
Right.
But, lucky for me, I got out. I wish I would have got out sooner.
Okay.
Sometimes I feel like I didn't protect my son enough because he recalls a lot of things, but we've been able to learn how to cope through a lot of those emotions and deal with them, but they're not easy,
Right.
because
Right.
those traumas affect you, and they affect you not just when you're little.
Right.
You go through life and you're going, they're it's like your backpack. You're carrying it
Yep.
with you.
Oh, I agree.
Because it's there. It's not going anywhere. But it's how you proceed and how you move forward with everything you've been in. For me, I wanted to get out as soon as it happened, but there was a lot of manipulation because a person who does the abusing has to find ways for you not to leave them.
Yeah, they do.
So they're going to find all kind of ways. It's going to be I'm crying, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again.
Yep.
You hear that and you hear, oh, well, I seen this growing up, that's all I know. And then you feel sorry for them, you feel bad for them. Or, that when that doesn't work, it's, well, if you leave me, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because for me, it wasn't so much what he was going to do to me. It was what I felt it was going to do to my family.
Right.
And I tried to keep a lot of it quiet for the sake of my family, his family, of what was actually going on in the home. But, at some point you just I couldn't hide it anymore.
Right.
And like I said, getting out wasn't easy, but there is always a way out. And for those people, for those women, and even men, because nowadays, listen, it's not just a man that
Right.
does the abusing. It goes
Right.
both ways. You can get out. You can get out. Is it easy? No, it's not. But for me, what made me make that decision was I recall it so vividly when my mom came over one day and asked me, how did I see my childhood as a little girl? And I thought it was odd. Like, why
You're right.
Right. What's going on?
Exactly.
And she was, no, I just want to know, like, how did you see your childhood as a little girl? How did you feel? I said, I had a good childhood. She goes, did you feel safe? I said, yeah. She goes, and you felt happy? I said, yeah. And she said, so why do your kids deserve any less? And that was it for me. That was the light bulb that turned on. And I said, wow. And I cried my eyes out. And I said, I'm putting my kids through something that I didn't experience growing up.
Right.
Why do they deserve any less than what I had as a child?
Right.
So I had to make that decision. And it wasn't easy, but it was the best decision. And, for me, my kids, and I'm glad I survived that situation. My children have their own relationship with their father. And I would never take that from them because at the end of the day, they have to see what they need to see through their eyes.
Right.
And again, my girls were so small, they don't remember. With my son, we talk about things, and I actually talk with my girls about it because they always say, we don't remember you and dad living together. And I was like, well, it's probably for the best.
Right.
Yeah. That's my response. It's probably for the best.
Exactly.
But, surviving that, it's not easy, but it's something I'm proud that I was able to survive. I was able to get out of. And like I said, that abuse it's all forms of abuse.
Right.
At least from my story. It was physical, it was verbal, it was mental, it was sexual, because when you're with someone who wants to control you,
Oh, yeah.
they want to control you in every way.
Yeah.
And there's no saying no to a person like that.
Right.
When you say no, there's consequences.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I was able to get away from that and get out of that situation and giving the kids a better life. But did it affect them? Yeah, definitely. My kids have had some up and downs. My son, he's a father of two. He's not with mom. They're doing a great job co-parenting.
Right.
Do I believe that the issues he saw affected what he went through when he was with the mom? Yes, definitely. It was something that impacted that relationship. But I'm glad that they're in a space today that they're healthy. They're in a very healthy co-parenting relationship. Because like me and my son talk about this all the time. At the end of the day, it's about the kids.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's about not, okay, we went through this, but let's do better
Oh, yeah.
for the generations coming.
Right.
So these kids shouldn't see these things. These kids shouldn't go through these things. Because like I said, all that abuse, it affects you in every way, anxiety, stress.
Right.
Every day just getting up and starting your day. And when you have these things in the back of your head, they can affect you. They can affect your new relationship. They can affect your relationship with the people you love around you.
Right.
I know for me, I had to take a step back because I was, and I'm going to be very transparent here. I was in an abusive relationship. My next relationship after that, you could say that I was the abuser. I'm not putting up with nothing.
Right.
I'm going to attack before you attack me.
Yeah.
And I had to really reflect on that and take a step back and get out of that situation. And I did, but it's like I put my guards up so much that I was like, oh, before anybody does this to me again, I'm going in first.
Right.
And it wasn't the right way to go about things. But I think that was my defense mechanism at the time. And when you're young and you just, it's learning, and I learned like, this isn't the way.
Right.
You've taken that position.
Yep.
How do you feel? And it wasn't a good feeling.
Right.
And I had to just say, you know what? I need help.
Right.
And that's another taboo in our culture is, all right, you don't got to talk to nobody.
Right.
Vete a orar.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Go pray.
Yeah. Pray about it.
You'll be okay.
Right.
No, I had to seek therapy. I had to seek therapy for the things I'd been through. I had to seek therapy for the things I'd done. I had to seek therapy for the guilt. And I had mounting inside of me because of what my children went through. Because when you look back, you're like, I failed as a mom.
Right.
I failed my children. I failed to give them the right example. And that's one thing. It's crazy. Not too long ago, in April, my kids threw me a surprise 50th birthday party.
Wow.
My son's speech was, if anyone knows this woman, they know that she stays apologizing to us. And he goes, Mom, you don't need to apologize anymore. We don't want any apologies. You were the best mom we could have ever had. Oh, wow. And that was like, wow, because I just feel like you have to apologize. You have to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you went through this. I didn't know, Papi. I didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to handle that situation. And I handled it wrong, but I thank God that my children, the relationship I have with them today is that we talk about everything. So much so that they've told me, we don't want to hear another apology out of you again.
Right.
And, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
If your children can tell you something like that, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful
I
thing.
did okay.
Yeah. Yeah, really. Yeah.
And that's tough though, Yeah. So it's been a lot of up and downs. We've struggled in our family with, abuse, drug abuse, many things. Their father, I don't know that a lot of maybe his behavior or reason for it. And I don't want to say that's an excuse, but, he was struggling at the time with those things and also in mental health.
Oh, yeah.
Mental health is a big part of everything that right now, I just think it's such a serious issue for so many people.
Right.
And affects so many parts of your life.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, I had to seek therapy. And it was the best thing I ever did.
Right.
My son remembers I put him in therapy. as a child, because I started to see some behavioral problems, and I said, you know what? We need to go seek therapy together.
Yeah.
When he was a kid, he hated it.
Oh, I bet.
And as he got older, he said, you know what, Mom? Wonder whatever happened to that doctor. He was a really good doctor.
There you go.
Trying to find him, and I'm like, yeah, he's not in Ohio anymore. But
All right, gone.
the fact that as an adult he can say that and say, no, you made me do this and I didn't want to.
Right.
It was the best thing you could have done for me.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that we all struggle with, I think sometimes just even asking for help.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Like I said, life is it's a lot of different paths and ups and downs you go through. For me personally, there's been times that life has been really hard on my family. Things that we had to go through that I didn't think we'd overcome.
Right.
And I thank God that we have. And it's just made us stronger. It's made my relationship with my children stronger. Because one thing about them and me, like, we're fighters. We're not giving up.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I can tell somebody is just don't give up. No matter how hopeless it feels, no matter how lost you feel, no matter how just you can feel so beat down.
Right.
As long as you stay fighting, you will overcome whatever it is that's going on in your life.
Right.
So yeah, there's been a lot of ups and downs in my family, but I thank God we've been able to overcome a lot of things.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. And your
Kids went through, they all went through their stages of getting into trouble and doing things they weren't supposed to, and defying mom rules. And there was consequences, but I thank God that my children today, they tell me, and we thank God that you gave us consequences, because if you didn't, we would have still been out here doing things we probably shouldn't have been doing.
Right.
Back then I used to hear, oh, you're tough. You're a tough mom. I didn't like being tough mom. I didn't want to be the hard mom, but I didn't want them to stay lost.
Yeah.
So the way I thought was, I'm going to put my foot down and I'm going to stick to my guns, and this is it.
Yeah.
And I just thank God that for them, they found their way back from the things that they went through and were going through. And I will say, too, is just I always stayed keeping my children in prayer. My mom was very big on always telling us to pray about things and keep your children in prayer. And I'm always praying for you all, and there was times of moments that I had, of weakness and despair. I would call my mom, like, Mommy, I need you to pray for me right now.
Right.
And she would call me on the phone. We would be on the phone and we'd talk on the phone, and she'd pray for me, or she'd come over and I'd just have a moment. And for whatever reason, that was like my safety. Like, when she prayed for me, I just afterwards felt like, okay, everything's going to be okay.
Right.
So I never let go of my kids in that sense. Did I hold them to their choices? Yes.
Right.
Did I have consequences for them? Yes. But I never let go of
Right.
because as a mom, you just don't let go of your kids.
You don't?
No matter what they're doing, no matter what they're going through, I might pull back and I'm going to let you experience some things because you're not getting it. And if I come and fix everything for you, how are you going to learn?
Right.
Or you're going to think that I'm going to be your backup plan every time and I'm going to come save you from situations.
Yep,
What
can't
if
do
I'm
that.
not here?
Right.
So there was certain things that I had to say, sorry, I can't help you with that situation.
All right.
Mom, I'm in jail. Oh, I'll see you Monday. Sorry.
Yep.
You're going to have to go through this so that maybe the next time you think better.
Yeah.
And that isn't easy. It's tough. As a mom, it's tough, but I had to do it many times. And I don't regret it. And I don't think my kids regret it either, because they look at it like, had you not done that, who knows where I would be.
Right.
So, yeah, my life could be as they say, a novela.
Oh, you know it. That old
A
soap
lot
opera.
of things, a lot of situations. As a mom, I've been through some things. I've been through some things with my children. I've been through some things with my own life. with my own issues, my own baggage that I've had to carry of the decisions I made and how they affected not only me, they affected my kids, they affected my family.
Right.
Because I wasn't willing to, at the time, listen to that person telling me, "Hey, this ain't normal.
Right.
This ain't good.
Yeah, this ain't it.
No, this ain't it. You need to get out of this. You need to do better." And it took some years, and those years took a toll on me to the point where I had all this guilt, and that mom guilt is real,
Right.
and it's tough, But I thank God that we've gotten past some things. Am I gonna say that my life's gonna be smooth sailing from here? No, that life isn't like that.
Right.
We might come across some other things, and all I can hope for is that we get past them and we
Right.
move along based on what we've learned from our past situations.
Oh, yes.
Because it's all about learning from the things we've been through.
Right.
One thing I do stay telling my children, like the abuse, don't ever allow that first sign. You got to get out. And I would tell anyone that, because that I'm sorry this might happen again.
Yeah.
And I think that when we forgive that first time sorry, we're hoping that it ain't going to happen again. And they're so sorry for what they did. Look at them. They're crying. They're begging me. They're saying, no, that first sorry this is the first sorry you're going to get of many.
Yeah.
It will happen again.
Right.
And that's one thing I do try to tell my daughters, like the first sign of anything that doesn't feel right, that you don't feel safe in that relationship or with a person, don't accept it.
Right.
We settle for a lot. As women, we settle for a lot.
Oh, yes.
And when you settle, it affects so much around you. It even affects your confidence in yourself.
Right.
I know for me, my self-esteem was gone at one point. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't feel anything. And then I felt like, oh my God, I got all these children. I'm just going to be single for the rest of my life. Who's going to want to be bothered with me?
Right.
I looked and felt damaged. And if one piece of advice I can give to anyone is, don't accept, don't settle.
Right.
Don't accept and don't settle. That first sorry is going to be the first sorry of many. Okay. So when you accept that first sorry, there's going to be many more, and it's going to make it harder. Doesn't mean you won't be able to get out. You will be able to get out with the help of family, with the help of calling someone, a friend. Nowadays, there's so much help out here with the women's shelters and domestic violence. And I know a lot of times we don't want to put our children through that. But at the end of the day, when you don't have any other reliable source, that is the source to go to.
Right.
And if I had to be in that situation again and I didn't have family, bet you believe I would have been calling that line.
Right.
And I thank God I did, because the life I have now, I could have never imagined it.
Right.
28 years ago.
Yeah.
30 years ago, I would have never imagined my life to be where it is today. Because I thank God I found a great husband. He's great to my children. He's great to our grandchildren. And he's just been the complete opposite of anything I ever had.
Man, okay. Yeah.
It's crazy, because the way that we connected, I wasn't instantly like, oh, this is someone I want to be with, because it was like, this was someone completely opposite of anything I've ever been with or wanted. But my girlfriend said to me, that might be the one for you. That might be that person, because he's so opposite of what you've always had. Yeah. Why not try and see? I thank God I listened.
Right.
And I went against my own preferences and said, okay, let's see how it goes, And he was so quiet and he was so laid back. And I'm like, he's not lively, and he's not, this you know, we grew up on the east side. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, come on now. Life and party.
Right. He's
Yes.
not a partier. He's not sociable. He doesn't talk much. And I'm just like, oh my God. My mom was like, pero como ustedes se juntaron? He barely speaks. I was like, yeah, I know, but it's okay. It works for us.
Right, exactly.
It works for us. So,
Right.
yeah.
Man. So that, yes, an incredible journey
Yes.
for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Those things that I went through have made me who I am today.
Absolutely.
And all I want is for anyone going through something like that, if you want to call me, we'll talk. I will be that support system for you because I know those feelings that you have when you're in that situation. They can take you to a dark place. I mean, I'm going to give you an example. My situation had me to the point where, mind you, I'm from this neighborhood, so I put my children in a stroller and I walked over to the Asian Plaza, and I walked over with an intention. And the intention was I wanted to get out so bad from this situation that I went to this Asian holistic store and I said, you know, I heard they had some stuff that when you deal with mice it's a powder form that can kill them, get around the house.
Right.
Well, I didn't have mice. I wanted to put it in his food. That abuse took me to that dark place.
Right.
And I remember walking to the store, and I remember going in the store. I remember asking the lady, and she's like, well, it's $9. This is it. And you got to be careful. You have children, you know, the best English she can give me. I understood that she was saying, be careful because you have children. And I'm in my head like, this isn't going around the floor. I had gone so far that I was thinking that the only way out was maybe I need to get rid of him. And that was deep. And
Yeah.
it was
It was.
harsh. And I walked out of the store and I said, what are you doing? Who's going to raise your children? What is this going to do to your kids? And I still felt defeated. I walked home crying that I didn't have the strength or courage to do something like that. But I was like, no, that's not the way. I have to figure out another way. But those moments and going through something like that can take you to some very dark places in your head.
Right.
And for me, that was one I'll never forget that. I contemplated.
Yeah.
So much so that I went to this store and I asked about this product. And I'm not that kind of person. It's just I was so desperate at that time of not wanting to continue to be in this situation that I was just like, what can I do?
Right.
And you know, your mind can play some tricks on you.
Oh,
It
yeah.
can play some tricks on you, especially when you're going through so much. It can have you going to some places that
Right.
you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
You know. And I walked back home and I just said, okay, God, I'm gonna leave it in your hands. We need to figure something out here because I can't continue to live like this.
Right.
And finally, it happened. I was like, okay, something's got to give. And the last time he put his hands on me was the last time I dealt with him. That was it for me. But going through those things and how bad it can affect you mentally is something that a lot of people don't talk about.
Right.
You know, when it can take you that far. And that was pretty far because the type of person I am, I wouldn't hurt anyone.
Right.
I would never want to hurt anyone. I wouldn't want to see anyone hurt. But that desperation took me there.
Yeah.
And I just thank God that I didn't have the courage. I didn't have it in me to do that. And I just took my behind home because, you know, I was like, I got my kids.
Right.
What's going to happen to my kids?
Yeah.
You know? And all I could do is pray about it from that point on. And he heard my prayers. I could say he heard my prayers because I was able to get out of that situation. But it's somewhat hard to speak about because, like I said, it's hard for me to say that this is where it took me, that I would even think of doing something like that. But when you're going through the type of abuse that I was experiencing, I just wanted out.
Right.
And when you want out, it can get very difficult. And it can get very dark. But I thank God that I found another way, a better way, for me and my kids. And, thank God they've survived what they had to survive. Do they still deal with some issues? I'm sure they do.
Right.
And we talk about a lot of things, but I believe there's still things that they question, and they probably are like, they don't want to ask me. They
Right.
don't want to bring it up because they're like, well, maybe, we don't want to bring this up. We don't know what you're going to feel about this. But I'm an open book. I've told them everything that they've wanted to hear, probably even things they probably didn't want to hear. But I also make sure to tell them, this is my story.
Oh, for sure.
Because I don't want them to feel like I'm not trying to make someone look bad. This is my story. This is what I went through. Does it affect you? Yeah, because you love them and that's your dad, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, this is my story. I'm going to give my story based on how I feel and what I went through.
Yep.
Maybe my story can help the next person.
Absolutely.
So, and they understand that. I have very understanding children. And they love their parents. They love both their parents because as children, you're going to love your mom or dad.
No matter what.
Right?
Yes.
And I've never tried to tell them, hey, no, how could you be talking to him? Or, I had to let my children figure that out on their own. Their relationship with him is their own relationship. It isn't the relationship I had with him.
Right.
Two different relationships. My relationship
Completely.
with him was not the relationship he has with his children. I got to let that play itself out. And as long as they're not being hurt, because as small children, I tried to protect them. As they got older, I had to let them have their own relationship with their dad, and they do. And that's okay. I'm okay with it.
Right.
I think my children are smart enough and are capable of setting boundaries because
Yep.
we have to all set boundaries sometimes, even with people we love.
Right.
And that's perfectly normal.
Right.
Sometimes we have to do that to protect ourselves,
Oh, for sure.
from anything that doesn't align with us or doesn't fit. For me, I'm very big on peace now. I'm very big. My life was so chaotic for so long that now I'm like, I don't want drama. I don't want none of it. So if I got to push you away because you're bringing too much of that, I'm going to step back. Sorry, I love you. I'm going to love you from a distance, though.
Yeah.
I got to pull back out of that because one thing I admire now and I look forward to is my peace.
Right.
Quiet.
Oh, yeah.
Because I didn't have it for so long. For so long, it was very chaotic. My life was, running from my house to go to my mother's because he's trying to break in through the window, or I went through all of that. It was not easy.
Right.
Having people come stay with me at night because I was afraid. And just it was a very difficult time. So what I have now, I try to cherish it and take care of it because I don't want any of it gone. I want
Yes. Maintain this.
Yes, and it's very important to me because what I went through to get where I'm at today, I've come too far.
Right.
So that's very important for me.
Oh, yes. Cool, man.
Yeah.
And not only is there so much, right, about that I, appreciate, and you even, you know what I mean, like trusting the space to even share.
Yes.
That's not easy either.
No, it isn't. And like I said, I don't want to, I can give a lot of details. I just don't want to. Not that I don't want to. I don't want to offend anyone, and I don't want to offend my children either. But they understand that this is mom's story.
Oh, for sure.
And if my story can help somebody, then
Oh, yeah.
I want to do that, because I know what that feeling of despair and feeling like you can't do this anymore, or you're in a position where here you're together with your children, and you're raising your children together, and now you're going to have to be by yourself, and you're going to have to do it on your own. Listen.
Right. Exactly.
My girls were exactly a year and a month apart. My son was 3. My daughter was 4 months old when I got pregnant with my 3rd child.
Oh, wow.
I had her in July, and in August I had my 3rd.
Wow.
It was not easy, right?
Yep.
But I tell you what, God ain't gonna give you nothing you can't handle.
That is true. That is true.
He's not gonna give you more than you can handle. And even at those times where it feels difficult, look to your children. If you're in this situation, look to your children and let them be that courage or that strength that you need to get out of that situation. Because like I said, if I can help anyone, that's what I want to do.
Oh, yeah.
If my story can help someone not stay in a situation that's hurting them or their children, then I'm all for that.
Oh, yes. And that's what I appreciate for sure. Like I said, that's why I said there's so many elements that I appreciate, of course. But it's also just definitely extracting those parts, like what we did learn, because like you said, the only thing I think you did not mention is probably like the specific or intimate details of like the attacks and things like that. But you shared a lot that is helpful, right? Because what you did share was that you met someone at 15. That's number one. What you exactly. What you also shared was that you had multiple children with this person, which automatically makes things much more difficult. You cannot simply just get up and walk. You have to now consider these other individuals and how they're going to be affected by what's going on, and that you are leaving someone that they love, like you said. So you got all that at once that's also taking place. But what you also shared was that, yes, it did affect your perspectives on things. It was also affecting a lot of viewpoints. And what was incredible was, because again, and I love that this has become a recent theme with some guests that have been coming on. We have the ones that have gone through it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna lie. Like, they did not have the best childhoods, and those are good stories too. You know what I mean? But like lately, I swear, the exact person before you, and I didn't plan this, I just love that it happened to happen. She said, same though, like I had a great childhood actually. You know what I mean? Mine was great. You know what I mean? Like, we were full of fun. It was always wonderful. And if anything, I had my pitfalls as an adult trying to figure things out. But as a kid, no, that is not my story. Like, it was actually full of love. I didn't have to question that.
Right. And that's for me, that was probably the hardest thing I had to hear, was when my mom said that to me. Right. Guess what? It woke me up.
Yeah.
And I said, why do they deserve any less?
Yeah.
You know? And that was my turning point. Like, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know? And because, yeah, like you said, you hear, okay, well, this is how I grew up, so I'm used to that. No, I wasn't used to that.
Yeah.
It's not the life that we had as children. So, of course, a lot of people wondered, like, why are you allowing that? Like, why are you dealing with that? You didn't go through that when you're that young.
Oh, for sure.
And the person that I was with is older than me.
Yeah.
So the manipulation and the controlling part of that person's behavior was easy.
Oh, for sure.
It was easy and to do that to me, because I was so young.
Oh, yeah.
I was 15. I was immature. I was young. I didn't, and another part of that was growing up. I didn't have a lot of self-confidence.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, what do you mean? You're so pretty, or this or that. No, I didn't feel that way.
Right.
And when you don't have that confidence in yourself, it's hard to fight back.
Yep.
And it's hard to say, I don't deserve this.
Yep.
It's hard to say, you're not going to do this to me. I'm not going to allow you to do this to me. So that had a lot to do with why I stayed as long as I did.
Yep.
Was not having that confidence and having such a low self-esteem. Why did I have that low self-esteem? I don't know. I think about it all the time. I question it all the time, and I wonder, like, why didn't you have that confidence? I have it now.
Yeah.
I thank God now that I'm in a position that, yeah, no, you're not gonna talk to me like that. You're not gonna treat me like
Right. No, thank you. All right.
that. Walk away.
Yep.
But I wish I would have had it then. It does
Yes.
save me a lot of heartache. But then again, I can't regret
You know, no.
what I went through because it's brought me to where I'm at today.
Correct. And I feel like that's such a profound thing, you know, because period, the one, we gonna make sure we highlight the 15, like you said, because one, yes, you mentioned that you were young. You also use the word immature, but what I want to use is underdeveloped. Like you're also not
Very.
developed. Yeah, like at
Right.
15, you're not supposed to know everything. What the hell? Like it's just,
And then coming from our culture,
yeah, no.
our parents didn't talk to us about things.
No. So you're not learning a lot by 15. You're not.
Listen,
You're having a 15. No.
sex education
It is
class in
non-existent.
junior high was like, what?
I ain't never heard about this, right? What is,
You know, your parents didn't talk about that stuff.
Nah,
and it's, I think that has a lot to do with a lot of issues today. Is that old mentality of wanting to protect your child and not talking to them about certain things.
yeah, we got to do away with that.
It's more damaging than it is good.
Yeah, it doesn't help. It doesn't.
know.
You're not, you know.
You have to talk to your children. You have to tell them what's going on. One thing, listen, we talk about probably a little too much at home.
Yeah, right. I mean, I feel you, but hey.
Because
Although-
I was like, I'm not going through this.
Yeah.
I remember being in school and getting that period and not knowing what to do.
Right. Yeah.
That was terrible.
Yeah, exactly. And terrifying.
It was terrifying and terrible at the same time. And I'm like, I come home to my mom like, you
didn't set me up
You
for
didn't
this.
warn
I know. Right.
know, and then she sends my uncle to come pick me up walking. And we're walking home. And I'm like,
Oh, no. Say that.
but it was that, the culture and how we were brought up, is just very different from today. So I'm all about, that communication with your children is so important.
Right.
And talking to them and not, certain things you can't talk about. No,
That's all on the table.
you have to put it on the table because you don't know how that's going to help them along the way, along
Yep.
their ways, along what they're going through. Because, nowadays, I mean, what I went through growing up and going to school and with your friends and that peer pressure and all is nothing compared to what you see today.
Right.
And I'm just, it's mind-boggling
Yeah.
to see things that kids now are doing that I would have been like, wait, what?
Right. I mean, no. Right. Yeah.
A lot of it had to do with because mommy and papi didn't talk to you about those things.
No.
Everything was just like, no, de eso no se habla. You don't talk about those things.
Yeah.
And it's just, to me, that's more damaging.
It is, because the other message that does get sent, like you said, is to swallow a lot of things and like keep them inside. And then your voice does become smaller. You learn that like you're not supposed to necessarily speak up about certain things. And, and even if you do, like, we're not necessarily going to equip you with the tools around it. Because if anything, we're trying to ignore. Like, can we bury this thing?
Cover this up. We're not going to talk about this. Okay, it happened. We're going to act like it didn't.
Right. It isn't. And so, like, what was fascinating is that, so you grew up with a lot of love, but just not a lot of tools.
No.
So, like, yes.
They thought they were protecting us, We're not going to talk about these things. These aren't things you talk about.
Right.
So then you're in these situations and you don't know what to do.
Yeah. You just, yeah.
You're kind of lost because it's like, whoa, I was never talked. No one's ever talked to me about.
Right. So what exactly am I even looking at right now?
Yeah.
Like, what? I'm not sure.
And it's crazy because the very first hit, I still recall to this day. I was still living at home. I was a young girl and I was riding my bike with my friend. And because he didn't like where I was, the street that I was on, he assumed I was on this street, maybe trying to find another boyfriend.
Right.
And mind you, like I said, he was older. He got out of the car that he was in with all of his friends and smacked me so hard that I fell off the bike. And I remember getting back on the bike, and my friend's, yelling at him. And she's like, we're going to tell your mom. And right away, I was like, no. Why? Because that's how it was. That's how we grew up. You don't talk about certain things. You don't bring certain things up. So that was, here I protected him.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, it was just not a good situation. And from there on out, I protected him for as long as I could because I didn't tell anyone what was going on.
No.
My mom had a feeling, but I denied everything.
Right.
Because she unknowingly taught me that.
Yeah, exactly. Without meaning to, yep.
Without intention.
Yes.
That's what she taught me.
Yep.
Is that you don't speak about certain things. So, of course, I was like, no. And she's like, well, I heard. And I was like, no, I don't know where you heard that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
And here now I was protecting him. So he was like, oh, well, I can do whatever I want with you. I can continue to abuse you because you're not going to tell anyone.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
But yeah, that can do so much damage. Like I said, it's a spiral effect too. It just keeps going. Like I said, I think where I am today, and when I got out of that situation, I had to reflect about all those things. And I'm like, wow, had you just told that day, maybe you would have never went through that. But I had that mentality of, no, we're not going to tell anybody.
Right.
This stays with us. And I know you need to tell. And I'm like, no, don't say anything. If you say something, I'm going to be very upset with you. Yeah. I don't want to be friends anymore. And what'd she do? Trying to be my friend. She didn't say anything.
Yeah. I don't want to lose the friendship.
Right. And so, yeah. And she didn't, she wanted to say something. I was doing what I was taught, how I grew up.
Right. Ooh. And I think that's, the other piece too was that you also mentioned that confidence piece. Ooh, that confidence piece. Because I have mentioned that on this show also. And I feel like it is interesting when you can grow up with certain things, but then still like question yourself, you know what I mean, in your place. But also like you were not necessarily unaware of love. I mean, clearly, one, because you had it. And so, like, you were trying to get it from another source. I mean, that part, it wasn't exactly not happening. There was a part of you that was like, this person wants me and loves me. And so I want to respect this person and I want to help cultivate whatever it is that we're going on. Unfortunately, didn't have the radar to know that, well, actually, no, this is bad for you. Like, you should want love, not like this. You didn't have that part, that like level of discernment. But at the same time, you did want what you had gotten, which was like to feel that, that goodness from someone else. And unfortunately, they took advantage of that piece and like made sure that they could just have, like you said, that complete control.
Complete control took over because here I was a young girl who mentally, I was not fully developed. I didn't know, you're still growing, you're still learning.
Yes. But brain wasn't even all the way there. Yeah.
That I didn't have any confidence. I had such a low self-esteem. So I almost... It was almost it almost felt like, okay, this happened to me because I deserve it. You start going through those emotions.
Right.
So that self-esteem is very important because when you don't have that self-esteem or that confidence, you grow up thinking that maybe I deserve this. Maybe I'm going through this because I deserve this.
Right.
And it's tough. It's tough. And I one thing I can't answer though is I don't know why I wasn't confident. I can't pinpoint that. I don't know if it had to do with my shyness because I was very shy growing up as well.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't that kid that made friends with everybody or, we were a part of church and, there was the popular kids that were in the coro and they sang and they went to all these field trips or got invited to everything. That wasn't me.
Right.
And that didn't help when you didn't get invited. That made it just even worse. Like, why didn't I get invited? Why didn't I get asked to participate, But I'm not sure why I didn't have that confidence. But it's something I'm still working and trying to process,
Absolutely. And I agree that like we can only have like ideas right now when we look back. But I think what's interesting is that you did mention that you got a lot of compliments from other people, you know, a lot. And so like that doesn't necessarily, you know, all them calling you pretty, you know what I mean? And all this, that doesn't mean that you owned it exactly, like that it came from.
I didn't feel that. I didn't. It was, for me, no matter what they said, that's not how I felt inside.
Right.
You know? So it was very difficult, you know. Now that we are talking about this, you know, I'm almost having
Oh, really?
a realization here is that maybe that confidence not having that confidence stemmed from being in a situation where I also was, as a child, molested by a family member. So maybe that had something to do with it. I'm thinking. Did I ever think of it like that? No. Now that we're talking about it, it's kind of, I'm putting it together, and I'm like, well, yeah, because that was a situation where I thought I felt safe. You know, you're with family, so you're thinking you feel safe. But when you're a child and then something like that happens, you're like, wait, what happened?
Right.
Did I cause this? What did I do wrong? Why did this person try to, you know, touch me?
Right.
And I was so young when it did happen. And again, that was another thing I tried to hide, and I didn't want to tell my mom.
Right.
And I ended up speaking about it down, you know, many years later. We had a conversation, and it wasn't just me. There's other family members that went through the same thing. So, you know, this person was brought up on charges and put away. But when you trust a family member,
for sure.
you're the adult and you're the child, and you're thinking, wait, what are you doing?
Right.
You know? So maybe that led to not having so much confidence.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because again, I didn't talk about it with my mom. It wasn't until someone else spoke up, and then we were all asked, did this person touch you? And then all my cousins were like, yeah. And that was difficult. It was a difficult time for all of us. And it's crazy because even though my mom asked, and they asked, it's like they asked, but then they really didn't want to go into detail.
Right.
And I don't know that they even knew how to deal with it.
Probably not.
You know, because it wasn't like, oh, well, you need to go speak to someone.
Right.
Do therapy. None of that happened.
No.
Just give your testimony so we can put this person away. And that happened. But then it was like, okay.
Right. But then that's it. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Not, hey, maybe you need to speak to someone. Maybe you need to talk to someone. So, yeah. I think I feel bad because I left that out, and now I brought it up because when you go through so many things,
oh, for sure, yeah,
it's kind of hard to keep up with some of the things.
Yeah, a little bit
because you try to bury them, and I think with me, I buried a lot, because I didn't want it to just take over my life or keep disrupting my life. I'll say,
yeah.
So you try to bury it and just say, okay, we're going to put you down here because we got to continue. We got to keep moving forward. I got things I got to do. I got to do this. I got to take.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Got to keep it moving. Yep.
You know,
wow.
But as an adult, like I said, it had to be me to go seek that therapy and that help that I needed for my own issues that I was dealing with everything I'd been through, and trying to understand why I allowed these things, or how to navigate through that guilt that I had all those years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
oh, man. And not only do, you know, I appreciate, you know what I mean, again, like that piece, but it's like, I would definitely say for sure, you know what I mean? I know you kind of just posed it, but I would definitely add like, oh, I'm positive, you know what I mean? Like, just because like, there's so much with that. Like, again, it's nothing against your.
Yeah, it hit me just now, like, well, wait.
Oh, that's huge.
So that has to be the reason that you had such a low self-esteem growing up.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Because like I said, you know, I was a very shy girl. And that's another thing I will say is someone who, that predator will look for that shy child, that child that's not outspoken. That outspoken child, they're not going to come near.
No. It's too much work.
Yeah.
Well, and you can't really.
And their fear is that they're going to tell, where that shy child, that's so quiet, she's not gonna sing. So I almost had it was a target on my back because I was so shy and quiet growing up. And that's another thing I struggle with, with my children. It was always talking to them about that situation and saying, don't let anybody touch you. If anybody touch you, and me constantly questioning them and having those conversations with them wasn't easy, but I just was like, I'm not going to go through this.
Oh, absolutely not. I refuse. Yep.
Yeah, I went through this. I'm not going to let them go through that. So it was always talking to them about certain things and questioning and asking them questions. Because when that happens to you as a child, it's hard to understand it.
Oh, yeah.
But it's even harder when your parents don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Or your family doesn't want to talk about it. So we talked about it at the time when we needed to.
And that was
to put this person away. And then after that, it was like, okay, we're not talking about this.
Right.
Yeah.
Too much to deal. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. For them. Yeah, it is. And agreeing with you, I do think that, they probably also didn't necessarily know how to handle the conversation. I'd rather just not, because I don't know exactly how to deal with this. Mm-hmm. Now that they're asking me for us to have this conversation, if the police ask me, sure, then I'm going to have you participate and it's a clear deliverable. Yes, you need to talk right now, and this will lead to a specific action. Right. Outside of that, I'm not going to talk to you about it because I got nothing for you. Right. And I also have to keep it being a thing. We don't want that. So if we don't talk about it, cool, it'll disappear.
Right.
But it did for them. Yeah. That doesn't mean it disappeared for you.
I think too, like I said, our culture and how they grew up, I'll say that, to my mom's defense, that's how they were raised.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure.
They didn't know any better.
Nope.
How they were raised. So she was just doing what.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we are creatures of habit at the end of the day. We are.
Right.
And in this case, but I agree that oh God, that does so much, because I figured in general, that the voice thing was probably a factor no matter what, you know what I mean? Before you had even shared what you did share. But a voice being shattered by something like that there's nothing like it, because it did that also taught you early on, what you can talk about, what you can accept and what you can't. And your value. You don't really get to feel a lot of value when something like that happens.
Definitely not, because you're questioning, what did I do to make this person want to do it to me? Right. What did I do? And you're such a small child, so you're really
yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But like I said, I'm just thankful that all my life experiences have me where I am today.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I am healed, and I'm healing every day. I'm trying to heal. I'm still struggling with healing. I'm still struggling with forgiving certain people.
Yeah. It's clearly not an overnight process.
No. I think I've gotten a lot better.
Oh, for sure.
Because I'm constantly trying to get to a point in life where I just don't want to have any type of hatred for anyone.
No.
In my heart.
Right.
And especially those that hurt me the worst.
Yep.
But it doesn't happen overnight. I can honestly say that. But I'm trying. I want to get there.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to say. I was like, it's things you want. And that's, as long as you want them, you can work towards them. You know what I mean? You don't work towards anything we don't want. You know what I mean? Right. So we're going to do that. But I think, too, what sounds, it's such a good reminder that, this is why it's helpful to keep exploring them. Not that we got to, relive them every day, and rehash them. But every time we talk about them, a little piece of that healing helps. It does help.
It does help. You talk about it and you heal a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yep.
And I'll say that, me being able to forgive these people is not for them.
Heck no.
Before, my mentality was, I'm not forgiving them.
All right, absolutely not.
Because I'm thinking it was for them, and it's not, because at the end of the day, how this has affected me, with my relationships, my depression, my anxiety, my stress, has not been easy.
Yeah.
And it all stems from the things that I've been through and the things that I've had to go through. And I know that. I just now process it better.
Absolutely.
I deal with it better. But it still affects me.
Of course.
I still have, a lot of things that I think about, and they come to mind. I think about it, and maybe I'll get sad in that moment and have an emotional moment about it. And then I'm like, but I'm here now.
Yeah,
And
that
look
reminder
where
is
I'm at
helpful.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I wish I'd not had to go through any of that. Yeah. Who doesn't? But I survived it.
You did.
I survived it. And all I can do is tell my story. So like I said, I can try to help someone who's possibly in that same situation or feeling the same way, because those feelings and those thoughts can get real dark.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the scariest part of it all.
Right. Yeah.
The sadness is there. The hurt is there. But where these things can take you is,
Correct.
yeah. I think about it every day. Like, what would have happened had I bought that powder substance?
You're right.
What would have happened? But I thank God I didn't.
Yeah, he had you.
I stopped myself, because that was just a moment of despair and desperation and feeling like I just wanted it all to stop, and I just wasn't in that right state of mind.
Oh, for sure.
Because all I'm thinking is, all this abuse, I just wanted to stop.
Yeah. How do I get out?
How do I get out? But I thank God that my family, my mom's words that day was everything for me.
Yeah.
And looking at my children they're my reason.
Oh,
They were my reason.
Yep.
And they will always be my reason for anything I do moving forward. I think about them. And that's, if I can give some advice, your children have to be your reason why.
Yeah.
If you're a parent. If you're not a parent, no one deserves to be treated
Yeah.
with disrespect. Physically, verbally, mentally. It's just, no one deserves that.
No. And I think too, that's why I think it's good to remember that it's management that we learn, not erasure. There should never be this goal. And that's funny, because that was something I was saying to a person that literally today, that was like, they literally said, I'm never going to forget this. And I was like, no. And I don't necessarily think it's a good goal to have, to try to, because you can't, first of all, it's impossible, right? Like, certain things you cannot bury them actually as much as you try, but also you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to. Like, yes, it is a part of your story. It is absolutely not the only part, of your story, but it's also just an incredible part of, yes, overcoming something. And it's a good reminder now that it occurred, but you didn't deserve what occurred to you. This woman sinned before me, did not deserve that. Like, none of us, you know what I mean? Like you said, and like you said, for parents, yes, we know for our kids, but also the non-parents, you were a kid, you know what I'm saying? Do it for the kid inside of you, you know what I mean? Like, none of us ever should have to go through those things, but we're just learning ways to cope better. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, and yes, when you have those emotional moments, I think that's why it's good when we do have something that grounds us. If it is prayer, maybe now prayer can be a good thing instead of just praying it away.
Listen, for me, it's helped me with so much. Like I
Yeah.
said, when you deal with so many things in life, for me, it's just dealing with depression and stress and anxiety, to the point where I couldn't sleep. I'd be up all night crying, stressed out, wanting to run out of my house and not knowing why. I just wanted to run from something. The emotions would get so deep. Come to find out, I was dealing with basically panic attacks. And it wasn't until I sought therapy that I was told you were having a panic attack.
Right.
And how all these different things that happen to you can affect you. It's almost like, wow, when I was in my 20s and early 30s,
Right.
I think I was drowning it out, going out with my
Oh, yeah.
and, having little get-togethers at the house with my friends and their kids. And for years, I masked a lot of my pain by living my life that way. And it wasn't until things calmed down
Oh, yeah.
that it was like, and now that you're
Hold
sitting
up.
still,
Yeah. No distractions.
no distractions, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And that wasn't easy.
Nope.
It was a time to reflect about it, think about all of it. And the hardest is navigating through it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you can try to forget a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I did. There was a lot of things that I pushed so far down that when they came out and came about, I didn't know how to react to it. I had a panic attack at work back in 2001. I was working at the Department of Human Services on West 25th. And it was a old memory that popped up that I had pushed so far back because I think when you go through something traumatic, you push it down and you don't think about it. And then when it hits you, it hit me hard. And I ended up having a full-blown attack at work. I didn't know I thought I was having like a heart attack.
Yes.
And my boss was like, no, I'm going to take you to the hospital. You're not going to go. Because I was like, I got to go home. She's like, no, you're not going home.
Yeah.
He took me to the hospital. And they said, they did a EKG. They ran all these tests. Turns out, your heart's fine. You're having a heart attack. You're having a panic attack. I'm like, what the hell is a panic attack? Because I didn't know what that was.
Right.
Like I said, for years, I was masking all that. Because when you have small children and I'm a single mom now. I got 3 kids at the time, and I'm trying to get them to school. I'm trying to get to work. I'm working 2-3 jobs at a time because I had to support me and my 3 children. It was not easy.
Yep.
I'm going to work in the morning. I'm picking them up from school, dropping them off at a sitter, going to my second job, working a job on the weekends just to make ends meet. I was so busy, I didn't have the time to sit with any of it. Yeah. And then when I did have some time, I didn't want to sit.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm going out.
Right.
Because I was
We're not doing this.
What I was doing. I didn't want to think about anything.
No.
And when these memories pop up, it's traumatic.
It is. It's a lot.
And I went through it twice in my life. It was that time and then not too long ago. And I was like, wow, I haven't thought about that in years. And that's trauma for you.
That is how it works.
Trauma will creep up on you.
Always gonna find you.
Because as much as you try to push it down and not think about it, if you don't deal with it, if you don't navigate through it, it's going to come back. And it's going to come back when you least expect it.
Well, yeah. And sometimes stronger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like I said, that one time at work, I had to go to my mom's after I left the hospital. And I told her, I said, this memory popped up and I just have to talk about it. I have to tell you. And like I said before, they don't like talking about things.
No.
But it was crazy that at that moment, she's like, who was at our house? Who was there? Who was that? Who was it? And I told her, I can't even tell you who it was. I just know the event. I know that we were celebrating my brother's birthday and this happened. Could I tell you who? No.
Nope.
I couldn't tell you. I know that my dad's family was visiting out of town. Could I tell you who? I couldn't.
Right.
But I know that something happened that made me uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And it came back and it like haunted me because it was just something I pushed down so far that when I just was like, wait, what? And it affected me to the point where it threw me into a full-blown panic attack. Something I'd never experienced. I'm thinking I'm having a heart attack. I didn't know what that was.
Right.
But that is that moment when I said, oh, you need help.
Yeah.
You need to see a doctor. And I started seeing a psychiatrist and a therapist that year. And I needed somebody to help me navigate through all these things. Because like I said, it's there's so many.
Yeah.
So many, But without that help, it's difficult.
Yes.
It's difficult. And I think for me, when I was on the go. I had 3 kids. I was taking them to school. I was picking them up. They had aftercare program. They had before care program. I had to make sure there was times where I didn't pay the aftercares program, and they're calling me like, "Well, they can't go to aftercares today because your payment's overdue." and I'm running out of work, or I'm having a friend, hey, can you run up there and go get my kids before, they're standing outside. And it was the whole hustle and bustle and rush that I never sat with anything that I had been through
Right.
until I feel like he sat me down.
Oh, yeah.
Sat me
Oh, we
down
gonna
and
make it. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, we're gonna sit you down.
Yeah.
You need to deal with these things,
Yes.
And when you're trying to mask it, you're making some bad choices.
Yeah.
And I can admit that. I was living my life, and I was always there for my children. I was trying to be a good mom. I was very protective. But when they weren't with mommy on the weekend, I was kicking it. I was out. I didn't want to deal with what I was dealing with. So not dealing with it was, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go drink. I'm going to go dance.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with feeling what I'm feeling.
Right.
When you have that moment of calmness, it all comes back.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
Oh, God, yes.
learning process.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Process.
It is. But it's also amazing to know that all of that is from a woman who now has adult children. Like you said, you are in a relationship that's over a decade now, with this calming presence, like different, you know what I mean, from before. And I think the coolest thing was your babies being up there, and especially your son. The one that you're like, oh yeah, saw it all, lived it all. Yes. And he was able to say such a profound thing like, you can keep the apologies, Mom. Like, I've heard them.
I don't want to hear them.
But we don't need them anymore, right?
That's what he said. We don't want to hear it anymore, Mom. We don't have to keep apologizing.
Come on.
And that was a big moment for me to hear him say that. It was like, 'cause here I still feel guilt.
Yeah.
I still have that.
Yeah, the mommy guilt forever.
Yeah.
Right.
It's hard to get rid of, but when they all feel that way, and to tell you that is big. It's like, okay, I think I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think I'm coming out of this.
You are, yeah. And is it okay to maybe release a little bit?
Oh, definitely.
Right.
I mean, we have to, like I said, in healing, you have to release it. You have to let it go. Because at the end of the day, I can't change what we've been through. I can't change what we've been through. All I can do is move forward from this point on and do the best I can. And that's all I've ever tried to do. Was I always making the best choices? No, because, I was young too. I was a young mom. I was stressed. I was my mindset was, I gotta pay these bills. I gotta make sure I got food on the table. And I think a lot of my guilt too was, when you're doing all of that too, is like, I don't have enough time for them.
Yeah.
But I can't make the time because I gotta make sure that I got a roof over our heads and I gotta feed them. So there was a lot of times where I felt guilt for that. But then when they were with their dad's family on the weekends, I was like, oh, I'm out. I don't want to be home. I don't want to think about my life.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about what I've been.
Right.
So yeah, that wasn't easy, but it was what I had to deal with and what I had to go through.
At the time. Yep. And we're here now.
Yeah.
We are, and it's definitely incredible though, like to be able to like see that, now and know. But I'm glad that it's a story that we're telling. You know what I mean? It's not the experience you are currently living, not anymore.
No,
yeah, exactly. Yes. So yeah, it can definitely be good educational and awareness building now, but you now get to live life, on a different side. I mean, not completely on the other side, but like it's a new side, you know what I mean? And it's, and it's a great side, and it's not the same one that it was. And I think it is awesome. I always love hearing the moms that were single and also have the new relationships, by the way. I always, if you haven't heard before, I'm always like encouraged by it because, I got the 3 babies too, and dating is, I'll be a small self.
It's hard.
Yeah, no, it's
hard.
facts.
It took some years. I didn't think I'd find the person I found. And like I said, I was in my late 30s when we met. And he'd been through some things himself. So finding each other was like, I don't know. I think for me, I was in a moment of, I'm not going to find love.
Yeah, no.
I didn't think it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But God has a funny way of.
Oh, yep.
He has a funny way of just turning everything around for you. So, I thank God that I have the relationship I have today,
Yeah.
and the type of man that he is, and how like I said, he's so calm and so laid back. And my kids respect him. My grandchildren adore him. They all respect him and love him. And he's been great to me. I can't say he's what I needed.
Yeah.
Even when I didn't know I needed it at the time or wasn't looking, because I wasn't looking for it at that time.
Yeah.
And my parents love him, which is a big thing, because they were like, we don't want to see you go through it.
Right. That's enough.
Yeah, you've been through enough. But like I said, it was when I least expected to see that. And even navigating through the relationship after being alone for so many years,
Right.
that was difficult too.
I bet.
He's had to deal with, he always says, you're always saying mine and me and I. And I have to tell him, I'm so sorry. It's just for so many years, it was just me.
True.
And
yeah.
So I still struggle with
Yeah.
we.
Yeah. Give me some time. Give me some time.
It was always me. It was always me figuring things out, and I had to do this, and I had to, so it has, it's been a learning experience for me.
I'm sure.
I'll say that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you're allowed, but it does sound like you have a great person that you get to do that with.
Yes.
So like that always makes it much better and more worthwhile, when it's like that. So, so of course I could keep you here all day, but you have shared so many, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things. And you actually are like one of the first guests that, like, when I first launched the show, that's what I wanted most, was just like survivors. People who have lived through it can tell that incredible story, because it's unlike any other, And it's a journey unlike any other. But it's also just, we do need that, it's an encouragement that, like, can you really get there? Like, you need to know, like, where the old people have been. We've been here, but we can't get over there. Trust and believe. Right. But it's only with things like this. So, like I said, incredible. Like, I love it. But now as you mentioned, you could potentially be a resource for others. Maybe they want to connect. Maybe they might hear this and might want to reach out. I'm just curious how they could connect with you, find you.
They can connect with me. I'm on social media.
Yes.
I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. On Instagram, it's Sally from the Valley. TikTok, Araceli Garing. And like I said, I don't really put anything out there. And I don't know. I think it was more of a not wanting to offend anybody, but at the end of the day, I'm like, what?
Oh, no, it's your story. Yeah. Yes.
It's my story. And now it's also not so much because it's my story. It's just wanting to help other people in this situation, because it is close to my heart, because it's not an easy situation.
No, not at all.
And if I can help somebody, if I can just be a little bit of hope for that person, and maybe taking that step, reach out to me.
Exactly. Nothing to be ashamed of. Right. So yes, I hope you all do that, and again, I thank you so very much for coming. I think anyone that listen, like I said, I get a lot from it, so I can only hope, that everybody listens can do the same. And so please reach out, y'all. Please feel encouraged, and please know you're not alone, right, in any of these circumstances, and please feel encouraged always. So we're going to do it again, sometime, but again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank y'all.